What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Josh Button Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Mike Stewart, rising tide martial arts, lifelong martial artist yourself. It looks like you're probably a lifelong hunter and fisher as well. Tell me, brother, how did you come into jiu-jitsu? I know you got your black belt in 2019. What made you decide that this was going to be a lifelong calling and part of your life, and you wanted to stay on the mats for the long haul? But how did you also get into it in the first place? I know you did some other martial arts beforehand, so let's hear the whole story.
So first off, good to see you, man. Thanks for having me on. And I feel pretty fortunate because I knew from a very young age that I wanted to own a martial arts school, and this is what I wanted to do. I started in Taekwondo when I was 6. And so I did all the traditional martial arts. I wrestled a little bit in high school. And then I started teaching. My parents were like, you need to get a job when I was about 15. 16, something like that. So I called all these martial arts schools. I was already like a black belt in Taekwondo. So I tried getting a job at a Taekwondo school, but none of them were hiring. So I called a random ninjutsu school and they were like, sure. I'm like, I'm not a black belt in ninjutsu. They're like, doesn't matter. Come on in. And I started teaching there. I got my black belt there in like 4 years. And it was good because it was actually my first real exposure to jiu-jitsu because it was in our advanced ninjutsu class, which is kind of like a oxymoron. There was a judo black belt and he was also a hockey player. So he's a tough dude. And it was like kind of weird because they didn't like him teaching us judo and jiu-jitsu because it wasn't ninjutsu. Those guys are very tribal. So he started teaching me a little bit of jiu-jitsu and judo on the side. And I was like, dang, started giving me some old school judo books. And I was like, this is where it's at. I ultimately quit that job. I took about 2 years off. Things started to unravel a little bit. Got heavy into drinking and not heavy into like any real heavy drugs, but just like smoking a ton of weed, doing some acid here and there, doing some Adderall here and there, doing some Vicodin here and there, just experimenting with drugs and alcohol. I played in a band, so smoking cigarettes. I gained a bunch of weight. I was like 230. And then I had to take a hard look in the mirror and realize I was slipping. My car got repoed. I got arrested a couple times. It was a mess. So that's when I was about 25. I hit up my brother. I was like, dude, I'm going to get back in the jiu-jitsu. I'm going to train my ass off for a year. I want you to do it with me. And then after a year's up, we're going to start a martial arts school. And he was like, okay. My brother drove me to class, paid my tuition for the first few months, he supported me so much in the beginning. We trained every day, most of the time, 2-3 times a day. And then we did it. We opened our school as white belts.
What?
Yeah. I was
Wild,
kind of
brother.
there for like the first 6 months because, like I said, I have black belts in 3 other martial arts. So I would like wear my black belt for like ninjutsu or whatever, and then like teach some shitty jujitsu. And then I met Helson when I got my blue belt from Helson. I met Helson when I was a white belt. He's like, listen, when you get your blue belt, we'll support you with our black belts and brown belts. You teach the kids, they'll teach the adults. You can teach maybe some fundamental adults, but let's see how you do once you get the blue belt, and then you can represent me. And so I had a lot of support from some really good brown and black belts, mainly brown belts who are now black belts in the beginning. But yeah, we did it, and now we have 5 locations. We're looking at opening 2 more, and it's just been the best decision I ever made from a professional perspective.
Bro, that's fascinating. Now, just for a little background, I met you on the mats at Wagner Hocha. You came down, you represented yourself super well. You taught while you were on the mats, you shared some knowledge. You're really cool with the guys there, blended right in. So when obviously you're a white belt and you've got your own academy, no matter how tough you and your brother are, I'm sure you encountered people coming in off the streets who are like, well, you're not really accredited, or you're a black belt, brown belt. You haven't been there yet. How did you deal with that doubt in the beginning? And how did you keep guys coming into the gym? And was it like just a community right off the bat, or did you face some like challenges with that?
Yeah, so there were some challenges because we're in a competitive area here too. I have a lot of good guys. Henzo has some gyms out here. Lloyd Irvin is right here. There's legit people all around. Denelson Pimenta was teaching around here for a while. So there's legit guys. I was lucky that I had the support system. It's kind of like the mafia. Like in the beginning, it was tough because I was by myself. I wasn't like really affiliated with anyone. And, this is 17, almost 16, almost 17 years ago. People didn't really fully understand what jujitsu quite was back then. So, in the beginning, dude, I had people come in on their first day throwing punches and biting me and trying to hit me in the crotch and eye gouge me. And, like, luckily I started MMA and MMA jujitsu and judo. Like, I fought MMA 6 months into doing jujitsu. So I was already like, in pretty good shape and stuff like that. And we were competing like every weekend. So I could handle the challenge match guys. When other academy owners and black belts were getting on me, I would just be like, well, if you got a problem, you can talk to Helson about it. And then they were like, okay, we're good. And kind of like the mafia. It's like, I'm with these guys. I'm part of this family. You talk to the boss.
Yeah, it sounded like you were a pretty tough guy and you could take the lickings even if they were coming. So you open this academy, you've got a little bit of MMA behind you. Like, were you confident? Were you like knew you were ready for this? And did you encounter any situations where you had a little bit of doubt, or was it just full on pedal to the metal?
I mean, look, anytime if you're a realistic person, you're gonna have some doubt. But I mean, I started teaching when I was 13, 14 years old. I would assist and instruct the kids classes at my taekwondo school and do the warm-ups and stuff, and then the head coach would take over or whatever. And then I taught at a big, I mean, this ninjutsu school had like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students. And I essentially like managed the school. Like I ran everything. So I knew how to do everything. And I actually tried to get them to start a jujitsu program. I actually let me go back a minute. I started jujitsu after the first season of Ultimate Fighter. Kenny Florian is actually who inspired me. A lot of people were inspired by Hoist Gracie, which I always respected jujitsu and knew what it was. There just was no jujitsu out here to practice. Like I would have had no idea like where to even start. But what Ultimate Fighter came out in 2005, and I remember watching Kenny Florian just in the practice sessions, like using jujitsu on a level I'd never seen before at that technical level. And I was like, man, I want to get into that. So I actually signed up and I did 1 year of classes at Yamasaki Academy. I'm pretty sure they were the first jujitsu school in Maryland. And it was a meat grinder, dude. Like it was a lot of, I remember they had this big Brazilian dude named Beto in there. And dude, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was like 20 years old. I remember the first time I tapped a dude, I guess I would have been like 22, something like that. I remember the first time I tapped a dude, I'm like, I did it. Like I got a guy. And he like kicked me. He's like, shut up. You don't do that. He's like, next you go with me, man. And I'm like, oh my God. And then he crushed me. And then he educated me like, hey, like when you tap someone, he's like, you're gonna be pretty good at this. He's like, but when you tap someone, like you don't do that. I'm like, okay, I didn't know. So I did it for about a year. And then like I said, like I didn't take it serious enough and then came back to it in about 2008, 2009, something like that. I think I answered your question.
Kenny Florian, he definitely displayed some good jujitsu, but didn't he open some people up with elbows in that?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah,
Ken Florian's a sleeper fighter, dude. Like
yeah,
I mean, he was my Hoist Gracie. He was the one on that show, and I don't even think he won. I'm pretty sure it was Diego Sanchez that won, wasn't it?
it
Like
was. It,
in
it
that weight
was. It
class
was. It
because it
was.
was one. Yeah, because it was 155ers and 205ers. It was lightweights and light heavyweights. But I remember Kenny like watching the practice sessions, and Kenny Florian was like lighting up the light heavyweights with his jujitsu, and that's when I was like, okay, you know, this sport has evolved to a different level that I wasn't yet aware of, and I want to know that.
Yeah. So, what was it like training with your brother? Were you guys push each other? Were you competitive? Was it full on love and camaraderie and just getting the best out of each other? Or did you have a little bit of that brotherly competition?
Dude, me and my brother have been in business together for like I said, almost 17 years now. We've never really had an argument. We have a great relationship. We are completely diametrically opposed. He is very reserved. He's very quiet. Most people don't even know he's like he's your brother. Like some people think he's older than me because he's probably a little bit more measured than me, but he's very disciplined with like the behind the scenes stuff that keep the school running. and I hate doing that stuff. And I like the promotion side of it, going out coaching the tournaments and leading from the front, leading the charge. And he is good about making sure that home base is covered and the financials look good. And he's talking to the bookkeepers and the accountants and all that. So yeah, he's good about keeping us out of trouble with, like, the IRS and making sure we're doing everything right, and he actually decided a couple months ago that he's stepping down. I mean, he's a black belt too, he's a great coach. He's always gonna be a part of Rising Tide, he'll always be a coach there, but he doesn't, running a school is a lot of work, and he's just exploring some other career. He's actually gonna become a police officer, which I was like, "Dang, bro, like, you'd be great at that." He's actually gonna become a DNR police officer, Department of Natural Resources. As you can tell, we grew up in the outdoors, and he's like, "Dude, I've always wanted to do it." He's like, "I like running the school." He's like, "I don't really love it anymore." And I was like, "Bro, all good. Like, all good." I think we've maybe had one serious, I wouldn't even call it an argument, but just maybe disagreement over the years, and that's it. But other than that, bro, I mean, like, we just give each other so much credit. I try not to hog all the credit. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without him, and not only him, but the other amazing coaches we have. I mean, you cannot we run 3 schools, we have 2 affiliates, and we're about to open 2 more. You cannot do that alone. Like, it's impossible. So you need a support system, and yeah, my brother and I are we've been a great team.
Awesome. And so, if you don't know, if you haven't followed Mike, your gym is absolutely what you just opened recently is absolutely stunning, bro. It's one of the nicest looking spaces that I've seen, and I know you probably didn't do that right away. What were you training in the beginning, and what led up to that expansion and that space that you built out?
So we started in a community center with 2 rollout mats with, like, 7 of us, charging, like, I think I was charging, like, $50 a month. Didn't have any, like, processing system. I didn't have a website, didn't ha I mean, this is like YouTube had just started. There was no Facebook marketing, there was no Instagram yet, like, none of that. And we started in this little community center. We were allowed to rent it 3 days a week. That was the max. And we would just wait, like, take your turn, and then you get a roll, then you get a roll, then you get a roll. Then we started in a small space that was like 2,000 square feet. We expanded that space. Then we moved into our main headquarters in Columbia, which is a gigantic space. And then we opened another small space, expanded it, and then that's in a big space, and then it's just little chips away at it. We always tried to be very disciplined and conservative with the growth. This is an easy business to grow yourself out of business. And you can have amazing gross profit, but then if you go putting a cage in and putting, like, all this money into it, and then, well, then you're gonna sign people up and they have to stay and you have to teach them. And then you have to hire coaches, and those coaches, I try to give the people that are, like, full-time, like, benefits and, like, health insurance, and treat it like a real job. It's expensive. So you have to make sure that you're, protecting your bottom line and protecting your balance sheet. And I have an amazing business mentor who has really helped me with my financial literacy. I've been working with him for like 4 years, probably the best thing I've ever done. But yeah, we started modest means.
Yeah. But the space is beautiful. You have Gordon Ryan, amongst others, in town for seminars all the time. It seems like you've got like a really good community there. What is your advice to guys that are starting out that small gym right now? And how are they going to keep into the grind and just stick with it until they see, some of the success that you encounter before you expanded?
You have to look at it like, and in like any other investment, it's going to take time. Like, patience is the biggest thing. I mean, people don't see how the sausage is made. They see what we have now, and they see the lifestyle that I have now, but I didn't really get to start enjoying the fruits of my labor up until maybe 5 years ago. I always lived super below my means. The first house we lived in was, like, super modest. I mean, it was an old just an old shitty house, like, but that's what we could afford at the time, and busted cars and, all that stuff. It's just like anything else, man. Make sure you have a damn good reason to do it. If the reason is money, then I wouldn't do it, because it takes so long for it to make, like, actual, like, real livable profits. Unless you're cool with eating tuna fish and peanut butter for 2 years like I did, sleeping on the mat sometimes, not going on vacations, sacrificing time away from your family. Make sure you got a really like deeply rooted purpose as to why you're doing this. If it's just, hey, it looks cool, I see Wagner and I see Gordon and I see, these guys making all this money. I see Henzo. Yeah, I want to be like that guy. Well, you're not probably going to be like that guy for a decade. And you got to remember too, I'm nobody, dude. Like no one, I've never won anything substantial. I fought a couple amateur fights, never made pro, never won an ADCC, never even competed in IBJJF. I had to keep it real with myself. When after my second MMA fight, you know, I came home, I won, but my face was busted, and my daughter was like, I don't know, 2 years old, and she like was confused, like, why are you hurt? And then the business was not doing great at that time. And I had to keep, I'm like, am I a fighter and an athlete, or am I a coach and a business owner? And which one makes the most sense? And it's like, what do they say? Like athletes want to be rappers and rappers want to be athletes, and you just got to pick a lane. Like, of course, everyone wants to be like Wagner, like Gordon, but keep it real, dude. Like, you guys are special. These guys are the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. I've rolled with Wagner when I came to your gym. Dude, I will, and me and Wagner are the same age. There's levels, and then there's levels, and then there's guys like Wagner. I've rolled with Gordon. There's levels, and then even deeper levels, way in the deep end, and then there's Gordon lurking at the bottom like a shark, dude. You're never gonna, I'm sorry, guys. You're never gonna be that good, most of you, okay? The 0.0001% will be that good, and you'll be able to make your name off the instructionals and the wins and the notoriety of that. The rest of us have to get financial literacy and run a kids program that's really good, and run adult fundamentals that are really good, and get good at gi and no gi, and teaching it, and making and being likable, and understanding marketing, hiring a good website developer, getting a good relationship with a good accountant. It's boring as fuck, dude. The boring, mundane shit that everyone hates is what makes you successful in martial arts. And that's not what everyone wants to do. Everyone wants to do the fun shit, And what I would just suggest is focus, master the boring, dude. Master the mundane, and understand that it's gonna take a long time. And like I was saying, is I had to choose between, am I a great athlete, or do I want to be a great coach? And I'm really good at teaching kids classes, which, like, dude, no one wants to be good at that. Like, no one wakes up one day and it's like, I want to be the best kids jiu-jitsu instructor in Maryland. But at one point I definitely was, until I stepped away from teaching so many kids classes. And I just had to keep it real. I'm like, I'm just better at this. I'm gonna let these black belts run the adult classes, and I was like a blue or purple belt. I must be the best kids instructor I can be. And then I had to face another crossroads. It's like, man, do I want to be a great coach, or am I better at business and leadership? And it's what I found I'm just better at, and the school's doing better as a result. So I just always hire someone that's better than me to do stuff, which is hard, man. It's hard to admit that you're not as good as someone else, but especially as you age, and it's like, you see it. You see these school owners that are in their 40s and 50s, they have to teach every class because they never let go of the reins. They never let those young guys, they never taught them the skills to be able to run the school for them. And it's so cliche, but you have to work on the business and not in the business, especially if you want to expand and have multiple locations and all that.
I completely understand everything you said, but I am going to offer you one little bit of pushback.
Yeah, please.
Brother, you have obviously changed lives for 20 years and longer. So forget comparing ourselves to the athletes, or whether or not that's glamorous or not. Your ripple effect, and the lives that you've changed is so much more than a trophy or a medal. And I think Wagner would be the first to say it. Like, look, when it comes down to it, there's lives on the line. Jiu-jitsu really does save lives, and actually having jiu-jitsu in certain lives saves lives. And it also brings the community into a better place when you're as honest as you are. So I commend you on your work. I commend you on sticking with it. And literally, one of the reasons I wanted to interview the people in this, community like yourself, is because of the persistence that you've demonstrated to get to where you are. It speaks volumes, way, in my opinion, way more so than any MMA win or any trophy you're going to get. So thank you, brother. And you know, like
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's a million kids that have come through your program who are like, that Mike Stewart, he really pointed me in the right direction and on the mats and off the mat. So, you know,
And
I
you're
put
totally
things
right.
into
And
perspective that
and
way.
by the way, like, you're totally right, by the way. And that's the reason why you gotta do it. Like, you have to remove the idea of money, medals, fame, notoriety for a minute and be like, "Well, why do you really wanna do it?" And the mission of Rising Tide from day one is just to make tremendous impact, tremendous positive impact, and, you know, raise all the ships in the harbor, man. How do you do that? By creating an incredible culture. I was out the other day and a father of a student who I haven't seen in 5 years came up to me. And this is so rewarding, dude. And I was like, "Hey, how's Hunter doing? Like, didn't he join the army?" And he's like, "Dude, look at this." And he showed me a picture of him. I'm like, "Is he an Army Ranger?" And he's like, "Yes, man, he's a fucking Ranger." And he's like, I was like, "Wow, like, that's amazing." And he gave us some credit. Obviously, I can't take all the credit for that, but it was pretty cool to be. I mean, this kid was not confident when he started with me. We definitely built his confidence up. It's stories like that, and you're totally right, man. Like, there's so many people, veterans and survivors of horrible situations, that they come to jujitsu and we give them their sovereignty back. We help them rebuild pieces of their lives, especially adult men.
Yep.
Your peers, for the most part, are just going out to the bar or going to the golf course and getting hammered and everything else. And I've also helped a tremendous amount of people in the academy get sober from alcohol and drugs. And to me, that's why, bro. And then if you do that, if you make the investment in the people, I originally was talking about the investment in the business, but I'm talking about in the people too. Invest in your team, invest in these kids, invest in the people that are having challenges. Man, that's where the dividends pay off, because you can't put a dollar figure on that. It's priceless.
100%, brother. 100%. I mean, that's lately it's transitioned in my mindset more so what jujitsu really is doing in the community more than, what I'm getting from the physical aspect of the sport. What I'm getting on the mats is honestly humbling. It's amazing. I am grateful for it. I love it. I enjoy it. But not every person that comes through those doors is going to see the sport the way I do, is going to compete the way I do, is going to even understand or get to the point of proficiency that I will. But they're going to take something that's way more impactful on their life than they can find anywhere else in the world. They're not going to find it in the bar. They're not going to find it in the things that, like you said, that most of the guys are our age are out there doing. So, it stokes me out to hear those stories when somebody's like, "Yeah, man, I honestly I go in and I get beat up every 3 times a week, but I also don't go and I don't drink and I don't go
Yeah.
and wallow in misery. I get things off my mind and off my plate, and they're living a better life because of it."
Absolutely, man.
All right. So how about yourself? What is your training schedule like now? What do you like putting on yourself weekly? What's the ideal week look like for you training wise?
I try to train twice a day. Sometimes 3 times a day, at least 4 times a week. I was kind of overdoing it a little bit there for a while. I was doing 2 a day, sometimes 3 a days, and then lifting 3 days a week. And it's just it's just too much. And I was finding it was just taking away from some other stuff I like to do as well. So, like, Mondays, I do 3 classes. Tuesday, I do one. I teach, and then I do one really hard session. So on my days where I'm doing high volume, it's low intensity. On my days where I'm doing high intensity, it's low volume. And that's what I found is the best thing. I was trying to go high volume, high intensity every day. I'll be 43 this year. It's just not the smartest thing to do. I don't even think it's that smart to do for the younger athletes either. And I take Sundays off, and every now and then I'll train on a Saturday, or if I don't on a Saturday, I go to open mat on a Sunday. But I would say it's moderate to high intensity at this point. If I have an athlete that's getting ready for a fight or a competition, I'll step in, and it's a little bit more intense. And it's just great, man. These young guys are getting so good. It's just amazing. I used to have to travel and bring people in for solid training partners, and now it's like everyone is so good. The sport has evolved so rapidly in the last 10 years, especially even like the last 5 years. It's just this incredible evolution where I mean, the old school guys get upset the purple belts of today are so much better than the black belts were 15 years ago. It's on average. I mean, obviously people are like,
Yeah.
well, you're not as good as Marcelo or Hadra. I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the average hobbyist black belt compared to the average hobbyist purple belt. Like my blue belts, man, they're way better than I was when I was a brown belt. It's just pretty amazing. So yeah, I try to go high volume with just very technical, smooth, slower, working on my precision and my timing and my technique and my deeper understanding of the art and like really troubleshooting situations when I get into a bad spot or whatever, or when I get into a good spot and I can't quite figure out the path I want to take. And then other days I just train like an animal and just try to make myself throw up. I do that at least twice a week so I feel alive.
So when you're working moderate intensity stuff, are you going in with something specific on your plate that you're focused on, that you want to work on, that you want to improve on, or where you want to explore?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for example, the topic for the next 2 weeks for not just myself, but for everyone is back mount. So I really try to stay laser focused on one thing for a couple of weeks. Obviously, when Gordon was here a couple weeks ago and he taught a leg lock seminar, like we're deep into the leg locks, specifically like cross ashi entries, finishing mechanics from the saddle from cross ashi. A couple weeks before that, very heavy focus on like front headlocks, guillotines. So yeah, I really try to stay laser focused on one topic, situational roles from that situation, and I'm always putting myself like if I know someone's really, really good at takedowns, I'll start the round standing. If I know they're really, really good at wall work, we'll start up against the wall. If I know they're really, really good at front headlocks, I'll start in turtle. Like I'm trying to die. Like I am trying to get killed and I'm trying to make myself die almost every round. And it's made me a lot better because I used to have this mindset, and Sean Applegate, who's a 10th Planet black belt, brought this to my attention. I was like, I gotta change how I'm doing this. We are the only sport that I can think of where the coaches are expected to be better than the athletes.
Right. Right.
That's not expected in even other combat sports. Trevor Whitman is not expected to be able to outspar Justin Gaethje in a match. You know, Faraz Sahabi and John Danaher were not expected to be able to beat up George St. Pierre in a spar. D'Amato was not expected to be able to knock out Mike Tyson in sparring. Like John Kavanaugh and Conor McGregor, like I could go on and on. But in jiu-jitsu, there's this weird thing, and it's actually self-imposed. We did it to ourselves as coaches, where it's like, I'm the coach. I have to be better than you. Doesn't even happen in like college wrestling. I mean, maybe Chael Sanderson at Penn State probably can still kill everyone in the room, but it's not common in any other combat sport. So I removed that pressure from myself a couple years ago of I have to be better than everyone, or they're going to leave. They're going to find someone that is better that can tap them. And that's just not the case. And by removing that pressure from myself, I've gotten better. The athletes have gotten better. And, everyone's going to get you eventually, dude. Like everyone gets
Yeah.
got, if they don't quit, like ultimately they're good. I don't know. Maybe not Wagner, dude. He's pretty fucking good. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you'll ever catch him, bro. I don't want to fill your head up with hopes and dreams that are maybe not possible. But
Brother, I'm older than Wagner.
I know. So no, sorry. Like,
I already know the writing's on the wall regardless.
and it's
As
the
I
type
get
of
older,
thing,
he's.
it's a type of thing where like every now and then, like a blue belt will get lucky with me on like a heel hook or some weird darce that I didn't see coming. And they've sat out 3 rounds and I'm on my like 25th round on an open mat and they like shark me and they catch me and they'll get like, and it's definitely some skill, but it's a lot of like timing and luck too. But then there's guys like him, dude, that like, I just don't think the average person stands a fucking chance. Like the average hobbyist, like even competitive hobbyist, like that's not like a professional grappler. You just don't stand it. You just don't stand a chance against guys like that. It's just the
Yeah.
reality.
It's funny too. He does the same thing you do, and it's always inspired me. He puts himself in bad positions with guys that have a good specialty. So if he knows that their half guard is a good game, he goes right to their half guard. If he knows that they're, good on the feet, he stands there and wrestles with them. And you're right, he doesn't really get caught very often. You don't see it. When it does, it's probably from fatigue like that, or he's pushing himself in the way he's training so much so that he's leaving openings because he wants to do something else at the moment. But what do you think about these coaches like Danaher, who's older, he's been injured, he doesn't roll anymore, but he still gets the respect from the room that way? He's got Gordon, but there's other coaches that have now taken that kind of more of just a coach slash leadership role. Even Greg Souders and all these ecological guys, where they're kind of eyes on, but they're not in the midst and they're not in the roles. Is that going to change the perception of this for everybody? Like, will it
I
raise the
honestly,
tide, so to speak?
I honestly think it's better. I have classes where with especially guys getting ready for super fights, MMA fights, where I used to feel like I got to be in there. There's a perspective that you have from the outside that you just don't get when you're in the mix. You know, think about it. Like imagine we'll just use soccer since World Cup's going on. The head coach of USA soccer team is saying, okay, guys, these are the drills that we're going to do. And this is what we're going to work on. Cool, go. And then they're over here, like working with this person on the field. They can't see the rest of the field. They can't see the dynamics of what everyone needs to work on. And also a lot of coaching is about experience. A lot of coaches that I see at the local level, the only experience they get coaching is at the tournament. They're not actually coaching their guys in live rounds at the gym. So the athlete, the there's like a gap in the reception from the coach to the athlete to the process actually
Mm-hmm.
happening, because there's no practice in doing this. It's just, hey, I'm gonna roll over here with this guy, and then when it's our turn, I'll roll with you. Let's put the timer on for 10 rounds, and I'll see you when I see you. And that's not as, and I get it, and I know why it's done. It's because it's not as fun to step back and say, okay, I'm not going to roll at all for the next 10 rounds. And I'm just going to observe the room. And now I can see, okay, Josh needs a little bit of work on his half guard passing. And Sam needs a little bit of work on finishing mechanics from front headlocks, darces, and anacondas. And also when I'm saying, block the inside hip, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. So I need to either rephrase it or educate him on what this dialogue means so that he understands. No, you're all good. And I've actually adjusted some stuff too, like taking a page out of MMA where we have counts for stuff, where the athlete on the other side doesn't know what we're talking about. So we'll have counts for moves, like we have like if I say Panama, okay? Panama means blocking the inside hip. Like we call this inside hip. We like when you're passing guard, like blocking their hip Panama, or putting a knee against it,
Mm-hmm.
because the Panama Canal controls all the trade routes. I got it from one of my other black belts named Steven. So if someone's passing guard and I'm yelling, "Hey, Panama, Panama," they know to block that hip with the arm, and the other athlete doesn't necessarily know what they're talking about and can't adapt to it. So I think it's great that coaches are, and this is what naturally is supposed to happen in any sport for it to evolve. Look at look at judo. Look at Olympic judo. Those Olympic judo coaches in the highly successful regions that do great in judo, they're not grappling with their athletes. Look at MMA.
Right.
They're not sparring with their Eric Nixick's at Extreme Couture is like one of the most accomplished MMA coaches in the country right now. He's not in there sparring with Sean Strickland or Curtis Blades or one of the other million UFC fighters they have coming out of that gym. It's just not happening. So it's good. Jiu-Jitsu's catching up to other sports, and I'm all for it.
You're 100% spot on. I actually, at Wagner's last match here against Lovato, I was, oh man, I'm going to blank on her name. Jessica Crane, maybe. Her coach is her boyfriend or husband or whatever. And honestly, the coaching stood out more than anything else that entire night. And I told him after, I was like, bro, your coaching might have been the highlight, because the communication, how clear he wasn't emotional. You could tell they had both been there a lot. She heard everything he said. She responded. And her match was very close because of it. And some of the things that he dictated, yeah, you if you haven't been there a million times, or you know, you haven't had the reps, you're not going to understand what your coach is asking for. So with that said, Panama Canal, did that come from like a Eddie Bravo inspiration thing, or how did that come up, and what made you think about it?
I took it, like I said, I took it from one of my other black belts. He was just teaching one day and he was like, yeah, I call this pass Panama, the Panama pass. So it's stuff like that. It's just, you hear it all the time when in good corner work in MMA, they'll say stuff and it's like, huh, I wonder what that call is. And then you'll see the athlete and it's like, okay, that's what the call is, you know? No different than football play calls. You can't say, hey, run a wide out. Cause then,
They
the
know.
they know. They're gonna, defensively stop that play. So we need play calling that is not so, transparent to the opposing side because everyone's so good now that everyone knows, when you're calling for a certain sweep or you're calling for a certain submission or a certain takedown, they know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll be in Lowell's at the gym, and one of the guys will be coaching the guy I'm going against and telling him something to do, and then I hit the response and look over at him like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Unless they speak
So
like
you think
Russian, then you gotta disguise it somehow.
do you think that that was part of the influence for why Bravo started giving weird names to all his stuff in a system?
I don't know, man. I love Eddie. I'm highly inspired by him because what a revolutionary mind in the sport. Such a necessary guy. He broke so many boundaries in the sport. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm good friends with a lot of 10th Planet black belts, and they all are just so cool, dude. And they're all really good, and they all have such good fundamentals. Like I think a lot of more traditional jujitsu people look at the 10th Planet and they think it's a little bit disorganized, but it's highly organized.
Huh?
Some of the best guard players I've ever gone against. And Eddie was way early to the party with leg locks and with certain sweeps and guard control and stuff like that. So I think Eddie's just a different guy. Eddie's gonna do what Eddie's gonna do. And he's gonna call it what he wants to call it. And you gotta think like there's so many moves in jujitsu, and some of them like don't have a name. It's like, we'll just kind of do this here. And that's why Danaher's been so successful because Danaher, especially bringing like the traditional Japanese, this stuff's old, dude. Like a lot of it's nothing new. And like categorizing everything into hierarchies and into kind of silos of it's such a disorganized mess for the most part. And it's a lot to contain. So I think Eddie was just systematizing it in his own unique way.
Now, do you play any of the rubber guard or any of the more flexible, youthful,
Not,
so called guards?
Not really. I mean, I'll modify it a little bit. To be honest with you, not really though. It's
So
just,
do you think that there's a system or an approach to jujitsu that is better for an aging grappler, for the midlife guys who are, trying to stay on the mats for the long haul?
I mean, I think anyone can do Gordon's game. I really do. Like, I'm not just gassing him up because we're friends. Watching him teach is incredible. It's incredible. So he taught inside Ashi entry from half guard. A move that I have tried to teach even in advanced classes. I'm like, God, this move is hard to teach. Like, no one's getting it, dude. He had everyone doing it perfectly within 15, 20 minutes because of how he was explaining it and breaking it down. And I was like, I stopped him. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. Do you know how much I struggle to teach this move? And it's such a valuable move. And I just stopped kind of teaching it because I was like, this is just a colossal waste of time. Like, I'll teach just like a basic, single leg X into reverse X guard and then just teach them how to sweep from there. Cause that's easy. Anyone can do that. Or like a tactical get up from X guard. And I just got away from the knee lever and the cross ashi entry. And and then I experimented with it when we were, like I said, getting heavily into leg locks a couple weeks ago. And I taught it exactly like Gordon did. And everyone in the class got it. And Gordon's game is more of a control-based game instead of a movement-based game. And I think as we get older, that's very, very important, being able to effectively take down pass pin as opposed to pulling, dynamic sweeping, standing guard passing. I almost never pass guard on my feet anymore, dude. It's rough on the knees, and you got to be fast and quick and stuff like that. I like pressure passing. Plus, you know, I've always looked at the combative element of jujitsu, and I never wanted to lose its martial identity of being like a sport and a martial art that like is designed for real combat. How
Mhm.
much standing guard passing do you see from half guard and from guard in high level MMA? Like it just doesn't happen that often because they can just stand back up. So being able to pressure someone and hold them down and keep them in the position and treating the guard almost like a pin and treating half guard like a pin prior to even passing is so important for real fighting. If you don't believe me, just try to just try to hold down a D1 wrestler. They're not going to play jujitsu. They're not going to sit there and like try to sweep you. They're going to stand back up. Now you got to take. Now you got to try to take that guy back down. Good luck. If that's a real fight, you're going to get knocked out. If that guy's got a decent overhand, the fight is a stand-up fight now, and you're not taking down even a D2 wrestler if you're a pure jujitsu guy. So I really admire the way that Gordon and John teach. I think it's universal. I don't think you need a specific body type to be able to do it. I don't think you need a specific athletic ability to be able to do it. And I've seen it in action. Like I've just seen it. I've just seen it work.
So, what do you structure your classes like? Do you do kind of that same Doniger Gordon influence class structure where you show it, maybe a series of techniques in a position? Do you do a lot of positionals and kind of have these guys working from there for the most part, and then do your rolls? Or
Yeah. So I don't do a traditional warm up. Our warm up is wrestling. I teach mainly no gi. I only teach 1 or 2 gi classes a week. I prefer no gi. So hand fighting, snap downs, collar tie breaks into a Russian, like smooth. I'm very lucky too because I mentioned I have Alexander Romanov on the team now, and he's a very high level wrestler from Moldova. Formerly a top 12 guy in the UFC. He's number 4 in the PFL right now. Number 4, number 5 in the PFL. He was a semifinalist for the PFL championship. Well, he was a finalist. He fought for the finals. He lost a split decision in the finals. But he's brought that Soviet style of wrestling to our gym, which is a game changer, dude. Because wrestling, American folk style and freestyles like this, where everyone's getting hurt, and that's why no one likes to wrestle. But the Soviet style is very fluid, bro. It's just, hey, let's just do some arm drags and you wouldn't think that, right? Like if you think Soviet style wrestling, you would think guys are trying to murder each other, but it's not like that.
right.
Heavily influenced by gymnastics, heavily influenced with their Olympic style of freestyle and sambo. So I start every class. It's just 10 minutes of the first 5 minutes. You're not touching the legs. You're not finishing. You're not mat returning anyone. You're just almost 1 for 1 for 5 minutes. Drags, ducks, slide bys, hand fighting, head position. Okay, then the next 5 minutes, we're really going to try to achieve some sort of body lock, front headlock, or rear body lock. No mat returns. Okay. Then for the final 5 minutes, you can shoot on the legs. You can mat return them, but do it gently. And wrestling is the warm up. And then I teach one move. That's it. I teach one
Mm.
move. If there's more advanced guys, I'll break off of that move and I'll teach a little bit more. But sometimes these guys are teaching 10 moves in a class, and the best way to teach someone nothing is to try to give them everything. So I now in advanced classes and comp classes, we'll get a little bit deeper, but in my regular just Gen Pop fundamental classes, I only teach one move. And then we do 2 rounds situationally from that position. And then we break. And although it's free rolling, I highly encourage them to take the approach that I'm talking about where, hey, you know what Josh is good at. Okay. Let him pin you in
Mhm.
mount and see if you can get out. You know what this guy's good at. Let him take your back. You know what, and you know what you're good at and what you're not good at. If you're having trouble finishing arm locks, politely ask if you can work on those mechanics and put yourself in those situations. So almost every role is a situational in my gym, at least for me, and my guys that have been with me for a while. And we start a lot of rounds from standing too. Like if we have the space, which most of the time we do, I don't care where you're at. The last 2 rounds when you're tired, you got to start from standing. You got to at least be able to score. And then in competition classes, I do a lot of 2-minute goes, which I've adopted again from wrestling. I've learned a lot actually watching my son's wrestling practice. They run a good room, and it'll just be like a 2 minute. The first to score a takedown wins, and then next 2 minutes first to score a sweep to wins. 2 minutes first to wins.
So you reset if they get the win?
Yeah, yeah. Like you don't keep going. Like if that's the drill we're doing, it's 2 minute takedown drill. That's it. Which is great for MMA because man, like when those guys are tired, and especially a lot of these submission only tournaments, there's all different rule sets, but it's like the sudden death takedown is very important to master. I think the most exemplary rule set for submission grappling is what Fury Grappling does. They're a big super fight organization out of Philly. Jonathan Webb does a great job running them, but it's a 6-minute round, submission only. And then the overtime is first to score, not first takedown, first to score. So if you're a guard puller, you can score off a pool. And, if you're a passer and they pull guard, if you pass the guard, that's the score. If you're a takedown artist, then your takedown it's whatever it is. It's the first to score. It doesn't matter if it's where it comes from. Or if you submit them, let's say you're a good leg locker and they pull, you sit back and you tap them with a leg lock, then you win. I just love I hate judges' decisions. I hate draws. I hate advantages. I love finality. That's why people like MMA, dude, because there's always a definitive winner and a definitive loser, unless there's judges' decisions and then people boo and they don't agree with it and they say this guy got robbed or got cheated. I think that rule set produces finality.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on ADCC?
I think it's great. They got to stop fucking letting people roll out of bounds, dude. I can't stand that shit. I hate that. We're the only sport where there's no out of bounds when it comes. It's the only. You can't do like I think I made a post about it today. They will ultimately have to stop when someone gets paralyzed, getting spiked on a table or a TV or the cement in their head, or a kid dislocates their arms. Like look, man, it's too violent. Like I get it, but there's the boundary. Penalize people heavily if they're running out of bounds. Kick them out. In wrestling, you do that two, 3 times, it's over. But I like everything else about it. I really do. I mean, again, like with half the match being, at least in the finals, points in the second half, no points. You're going to have wrestlers game that system, but that's any sport, Even the rule set that I'm talking about in Fury, where it's 6 minutes submission, only one first to score. I've seen wrestlers stall for 6 minutes and then just get the first takedown in overtime. Yeah. So there's no stopping athletes from gaming rule sets, but I like submission only, dude. I really do. Because how many times have we seen someone score 4 points and then they lay there and they don't really try to do anything else? Or the bottom guy just is down 8 points and he just kind of quit because he knows that there's no way. There's drawbacks and benefits to both. Submission only can get boring if people aren't fighting. But, I like what the UFC is doing, but the rounds aren't long enough. Like you need, let's say I'm in on a Kimura and, sometimes on a good guy, it takes a minute to get to a finishing position on a Kimura or a front headlock or whatever, or I get to your back, I get back mount. Takes a minute to finish someone from there. And with a clock on your back, it's, the short periods, they don't allow enough time for finishes. But I love it. I just don't like the out of bounds thing, dude. It really, I cringe every time I see like people rolling on the carpet and then people, to an outsider that's never done jiu-jitsu before, they're going to look at it and be like, that's insane. Like, I don't want to do that. And, I just think it's ridiculous. I think it's super unprofessional.
Yeah. I do love the bowl. I love that UFC has the bowl, but I think you're right. I think if you had a 10-minute round and then an overtime round or something like that, like even that would be a little bit more, specific for the sub-only format, or at least better for it.
Yeah. Yeah. The bowl is great because you can't run away and you can't get out. But how are you going to do that in a big tournament? Like it's impossible.
Possible.
I love my favorite is combat jujitsu in the cage.
In the cage.
Yeah, we had a couple we have a couple events like that here, and that's what I make my guys do before they do MMA. So I make them do a bunch of jujitsu tournaments, a couple Muay Thai smokers, maybe a boxing smoker or exhibition, and then I put them in a combat jujitsu match where there's no striking on the feet, but there's fence wrestling, and then the second it gets to the ground, they're allowed to strike each other with an open hand.
Right.
That's my favorite. That's when you'll find out if your jujitsu is good or not, and if you really want to do MMA or not. Because some guys they get slapped one time and like all their jujitsu falls apart. It's just super old school. I think it's cool. Eddie Bravo was like really getting into that for a minute, combat jujitsu worlds, and I haven't really heard much about it lately. Maybe it's happening. It's just not being promoted heavily. But
It was strange. It was in Mexico, and I thought they were doing it regularly, and then it was gone. It was very strange to me as well.
maybe I'm the only one that likes it. Maybe the interest just wasn't there.
There are people that don't like it, but I loved it. And actually, Combat Night Jiu-Jitsu that travels around a little bit, they have some matches where they do combat jiu-jitsu, but they have all these guys that want to do striking and they'll wear the leg pads and the MMA gloves. So, it's like they don't get as many people that sign up for it, I guess.
Yeah, even like a pancrase rule set, which is essentially what they do in Pennsylvania. They just made amateur MMA legal in Maryland last year.
Hmm.
So we always would have to travel to Delaware or Virginia and Pennsylvania to have our amateurs fight. And in amateur, so they got two levels of amateur in PA. One is beginner amateur, where no head kicks, no elbows, no no knees to the head, and no ground and pound to the face. So it's
Headgear?
no headgear, shin guards, small MMA gloves. And then they have advanced amateur, where you're allowed to ground and pound to the face, still no elbows. So it's a good kind of like speeder, especially I have guys that are 18, 19 years old getting into MMA. Virginia, it's pro rules, your first fight as amateur. Complete pro rules. So, I mean, that's what I started with. My first fight was 100% pro rules. No shin guards, pro rules, elbows, knees, everything. And that's how it's always been in Virginia, dude. Which is good for some guys. Like if guys are really good in the clinch and they have really nasty elbows and they have really good Muay Thai and kickboxing, good head kicks, good clinch work. They're durable. They've done a bunch of Muay Thai. They can handle the contact. And then they transition to MMA. We'll put them in there. But guys that are young, I don't want them going in and getting rocked with an elbow or a knee to the jaw at 19, 20 years old and having CTE later and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, especially with the way the talent level is. You got these kids that have been on the mat since they were 4 or 5 years old at this point and doing it who knows what by the time they get their first pro fight.
yeah,
With that said, we're both in our 40s. What does staying dangerous after 40 really mean to you?
not fighting anyone ever if you don't have to. Like it's so crazy the cyclical nature of combat and your confidence, you know? Before I started jujitsu, I thought I was like one of the toughest people alive. And then I started jujitsu and quickly realized that I was a punk and I couldn't fight at all. And then you get kind of good and you're like, well, yeah, I could probably beat just about anybody. And then you train long enough and you have enough exposure that you're like, man, I don't really want to smoke with anybody, dude. Like I'm just gonna go home and, you know. And I really think what it is was the question, what is staying dangerous after 40, man? It's at this point, it's I want to be that dude. My goals are so different now. I want to be that dude when I'm 60, when I'm 70, where my grandkids' friends are like, holy shit, your grandfather is fucking shredded. Your grandfather still does fucking jujitsu. Your grandfather still lifts weights. Like what the fuck, man? He still goes and gets after it doing outdoor stuff. Like I just want to get after it forever, bro. And that's my goal now. It has nothing to do, like, I'm confident that I can handle myself if anyone ever tried to hurt me. And I'm super confident that I have the awareness now of being like, this is about to go down. Let's leave. I don't want
Mhm.
to, dude. Like, I live 20 minutes out, 25, 30 minutes outside of Baltimore, dude. I grew up in my late teens and early 20s going out downtown in Baltimore City, dude. It's a dangerous, insane place. I've seen a lot of violence down there. Dude, I'm not like, look, bro, I live out in the countryside. I'm not claiming I'm like a Baltimore guy. Like everyone from Baltimore County is like, yeah, I'm from Baltimore, dude. I'm like, dude, you live in a gated community. You're not from Baltimore. But we did spend a lot of time down there going out to clubs and stuff like that. And like been in a couple scraps down there, dude, seeing some stuff, seeing people get shot at, seeing people get stabbed, seeing people get mobbed, seeing people get curb stomped, seeing people get hit by cars, had friends get hurt really bad, have had friends hurt people really bad. And it's like, man, I don't want nothing to do with that anymore. And it's really about being an example to the younger generation of, hey, I've been there, dude. This is not cool. Like the shit that you guys think is cool is actually pretty whack. And what's cool is going to bed on time and reading books and listening to educational podcasts and getting enough sunlight and making sure that you are eating all your protein and drinking all your water and taking all of your vitamins. That's what's cool. And being a productive member of society and helping out people. Just being a bad motherfucker, yeah, it's cool on the surface, but it's completely hollow if it's not tethered to all of these other attributes.
Capable but wise.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love that.
So you just touched on a lot of the things that you would consider recovery. What are your recovery non-negotiables? Maybe aside from that list you just offered us.
I mean, for me, diet and nutrition is pretty important. I struggle with my sleep, but and I used to like be so guilty about it. Like if I felt tired during the day, like taking a nap, I'd be like, "Well, you're being lazy." But I'll be completely honest with you. Like I didn't get great sleep last night, and I woke up and I trained for 2 hours, and then I took a nap before we started this podcast just to kind of recharge. So that's huge for me. You know, creatine, ZMA, omegas, protein, water intake. But look, dude, like I still drink and I quit drinking energy drinks. Obviously, dude, if I could, if, and I'm not trying to get on my high horse here. Alcohol is really bad for recovery. Like it's just horrible. If you're not going to quit, at least significantly reduce your alcohol intake if you want to take jujitsu seriously. It I have guys like, how do I get good? How do I get good? I'm like, look, man, the stuff you want to get good at, it could take years. It could take years. But if you just quit drinking, like instead of 4 days a week, just cut it down to one or two, dude, you will see dramatic results in your recovery and your weight loss. A lot of guys, it's weight loss. I'm like, dude, you're carrying around an extra 40, 50 pounds. Start tracking your calories, get your macros dialed in. You can still eat a cheeseburger and pizza if it fits your macros. But just like, dude, you can lose 50 pounds safely and in a healthy way in a matter of months. That will make a dramatic result in how some of these moves I'm teaching you just can't do. You're out of shape, you know? Your output cannot be what you need it to be, and your recovery cannot be what you need it to be because you're overweight. It's that simple. And for me, just consistency and not training super, super hard if I'm injured and letting the actual injury get better, dude. That's huge, you know?
All right. So if you could leave the audience, all these midlifers and anybody else that loves jujitsu and is watching this with one word, if you could leave them with one word, what would be that word? And then tell us why.
If I could leave with one, oh man, that's tough. One word. Shoot. Just for are we talking just for jujitsu?
No, if it can be something that inspires you every day off the mats, on the mats, it's just something that's important to you. It's one of your mantras. It's something that's going to stand out for you personally. And then you tell us why.
I mean, the word that I just try to live my life by is just relentless, like unrelenting. And that doesn't mean unmerciful. It just means, what do you really want? Do you really want to be good at jujitsu? Then you must be relentless in the pursuit of getting good at jujitsu. Do you really want to lose the weight? Well, then you got to be relentless with your discipline in the diet. Do you want to get smart? Do you want to get more literate? Do you want to be successful? Then you have to be relentless in your pursuit of education and self-mastery. And that's it. I choose to be relentless in my pursuits. And I feel like that's what is kind of like creates the herd separation. My tolerance for setbacks and for failure and for suffering and for pain I just feel like it's way higher than the average person. I see so many people quit earlier in their goals. I'm like, that's why you quit? Like, where are your balls, dude? Like, that's not even that big. That's not even that big of a problem. And you let that hold you back. You gotta be relentless, dog. Or just admit that you don't want it. And that's okay, by the way. You know, just admit that you want to be overweight into your 60s and perhaps die early from a heart attack. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. Just admit that you want to be terrible at jiu-jitsu for the next 10 years and watch everyone eclipse you. That's fine. But don't tell me that you want to fucking lose the weight and then get sloppy with it. Don't tell me that you want to build your business and then fuck around on TikTok all day. Don't tell me that you want to be good at jiu-jitsu and then skip class and sit out rounds and get drunk every fucking other day. Just you can't do, you got to pick one or the other, man.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you very much. So you find yourself coming back down to South Florida anytime soon?
I would love to, man. I really want to take my son down there and visit like the Everglades and I want to do some gator hunting. I want to do some fishing down there. Like, you guys have incredible natural resources there that anytime I'm there, I feel like I'm there for kind of work, or it's like a family trip where we're just kind of chilling. And I've never really gotten to like fully take advantage of kind of like some of like the hillbilly shit that you can do down there, which is like plentiful.
Yeah, come snag some pythons and some invasive lizards for us.
Yes, dude. That's what I want to do.
Awesome. Brother, it's been a pleasure. I thank you for your time. The community thanks you for your time, and thanks you for like being persistent enough to make all this happen, both at, all of your locations, and growing the sport, growing the community. We're grateful for you, and you are raising tides.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much, Josh.
We'll put everywhere to find you in the show notes, but you guys go check out his Instagram too, because he's got some good Gordon stuff on there. He's got a beautiful academy and lots to share, and I'm stoked to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Thanks for watching today's episode, and as always, go to Lineage Provisions for 15% off of the best protein from regenerative agriculture, and my personal favorite, Lineage Provisions. 15% off, code JoshButton. You guys enjoy. Have a great day.